Hello and welcome to the SAP HANA Academy. My name is Dennis van Kempen and in this video tutorial series we will discuss SAP HANA System Administration. In this video we will look into configuring SAP HANA System Properties, INI files. System properties for an SAP HANA system are persisted in configuration files. These files are often simply called INI files because of the file extension. Some files contain parameters for the system as a whole, for example global.ini. Other for the configuration of a particular service, for example indexserver.ini for the database engine. The configuration files themselves are stored on the HANA Linux server at the following location: /HANA/shared. This is the default mount point for files that are shared across instances in a distributed system. /HANA/shared is the default name for this mount point, but any name can be used, so be aware of that. And then the SID, the system identifier, and then /global HTTP custom config. Default values are stored in a separate location and are overwritten during system updates. So do not make any changes to these files manually, they will get lost. To change system parameters, you need certain system privileges. INI file admin, if you need to change parameters at the system level, and database admin for database tenant specific parameters. Configuration files are separated into sections, and sections bundle properties of the same category. Properties can be configured at either the system level, the database level, or the host level. Priorities for custom configurations go from host level, the highest, to system level, the lowest, where database specific settings only apply to that database, of course. And if nothing is specified, the default is used. There are two monitoring views that display configuration file information. MINI files shows at what level properties of each configuration file can be configured, while MINI file contents shows the actual values, the content, for the properties of each file. And we'll take a look at both views in a minute. If you would like to know more about the different parameters, please check out SAP Note 2036111, Configuration Parameters for the SAP HANA System. There is a PDF attached to the note that contains a detailed description of a lot of parameters. The document is already 70 pages and likely to grow. If we just take a brief look, here we see the INI file where the parameter is stored, global.ini, and then the parameter, for example, alert audit trail type, the description, possible values, any default, whether a restart is required or not, the validity, and where to find more information about the parameter. And this goes on for 70 pages. And you may find this document very useful if you need to look up certain settings. Okay, I'm connected here to a Windows computer and have started SAP HANA Studio and have selected the Administration Console perspective. You can access and edit configuration files on the Configuration tab of the Administration Editor. This tab displays information in a tabular format. The leftmost column shows the INI file. As you can see, there are quite a few. So let's expand the first one. And first we have a section. Here, for example, it's called global, and then the parameter. The next column shows the default value, and then any system, database, or host specific value. A minus means that values cannot be configured at that level. So let's open one where we can set values. Access engine.ini, HTTP server, embedded equals true. It's configured at the system level, but it could be set at the database level as well. The information displayed here, as mentioned, comes from two monitoring views. So if we expand the catalog, then the sys schema views, scroll down, and then here we have MINI files and MINI file contents, and you can right click, open content. And as mentioned, INI files shows which files can be configured at which layer, whereas the INI file contents shows the actual contents of the file. Same information, a bit harder to read. Okay, now how do we change a system property? Well, to change, simply navigate to the parameter that you want to change. You can enter a search here, and let's enter reserved. Here we have, for example, reserved connections. This parameter controls reserved connections. If the maximum number of connections has been reached in an SAP HANA system, it's not possible for anyone to log on, not even an administrator. For this reason, you can reserve a certain number of connections for administrative access only. Well, the default is 10, and if we double click, we can set a new value here, say 15. Save. For some parameters, accepted values are numbers. For other, true or false, or a string of text. In fact, true or false are text strings, not booleans, so be aware of that. If you misspell them, they are ignored. There's no validation of the input, so make sure you enter correct values. I could, for example, enter an A here. Save, and we have an A here. This setting makes no sense and will be ignored, and the default will apply, but it's good to know in case the changes you just have made do not appear to work. You might just have made a typo, some bad input. As you can see, user-defined parameters are shown as a green circle. To return to the default value, just double-click the entry and click the Restore Default button. The green circle has disappeared. Let's do another one, System Information. Defaults to Custom. When set to Production, HANA Studio will warn users when they are about to perform critical operations, for example, execute stop the system, perform a data backup, and so on. There is no change in behavior for the other values. You can enter training here, for example, and it will be stored in the file. Notice that we have to select the level, the layer where we want to set the parameter, system layer, database layer, or host layer. Here I'll do it at the system level and put save. And you could parse this setting using SQL for your application and do something with it, for example. Now, in general, SAP does not recommend changing any of the default values of parameters unless stated in the documentation or instructed by SAP support. Setting parameters at the database tenant level works exactly the same, but they will apply to the tenant only, of course. Now, as explained in other videos, SAP HANA Studio connects to the HANA database using JDBC, ODBC for Java. HANA Studio is a Java application, and to communicate, it uses SQL. Now, does this mean that you can configure INI file as well using SQL? Well, yes, you can. In fact, if I just slow motion the video where we made a configuration change, you can see it displayed here in the dialog, but normally it goes way too fast to actually read it. You can use the alter system, alter configuration statement to make changes. So alter system, alter configuration, and then in quotes and between brackets, file name, layer, layer name, brackets close, and then set section key equals value. So for example, alter system, alter configuration, global.ini, system, set system information, usage equals production. For system level changes, you do not need to specify the layer name, which would be host or database. So if we run this, we can see that it's executed successfully. If we then refresh our system in the systems view, we can see that production system has been added as a label. This is to warn us. And the same if we return to our console, we can see that the yellow bar displays, indicating that this is production. To unset the parameter, use the unset clause. Note that we're warned now because we're running production, so you get these SQL warnings and just run it. Refresh, and we're back to our default setting. Okay, system parameters are configured in the SAP HANA Administration Guide. You can read or download this guide free of charge from the SAP Help portal on help.sap.com. Thank you for watching this SAP HANA Academy video.